So it was in the year 1905 that it became possible to establish cash waqfs with shares. And then nothing much happened, but establishing a waqf with equity financing, with shares. And the beauty of equity financing, the importance of equity financing is that they are identical to mudaraba, which was the condition of Imam Zufer way back in the 8th century. So it's ironical, really, this very suggestion of Imam Zufer, which was made in the 8th century, was made a reality by a secular Turkish businessman, Vehbi Koç, in the year 1967, some 1,100 years later. It became possible. So this particular waqf began to operate through mudaraba, because share financing is practically 99% similar to mudaraba. This is a turning point. Why this is so important? Because usury is eliminated. We are not talking about quasi-usurious istiklal instruments. We are talking about equity finance, which is 100% non-usurious. It is not usurious. There is no usury anymore. It disappears. And then a waqf of stocks also can diversify risks by holding shares of companies operating in different sectors. Such waqfs of stocks can also establish their own companies. And the profits that they get, they can reinvest in their capital. So they can enhance their capital. So such waqfs can grow. And Koç Foundation grew, became much more. Teşekkür ederim. Koç Foundation became much greater. They can also link the income of the manager to the income of the waqf. So the manager has great potential. He can take part in the profit of the waqf. So he will work very hard. He doesn't get direct fixed salary. He gets a percentage of the profit of the waqf. And so you get, you give him the incentive to do very hard work. And then information asymmetry is eliminated. What is information asymmetry? Have you people heard about that? Very important. How do I explain that? Okay, let me explain it with a very current example. Take Mr. Putin, the bloody dictator, okay? And he has all the power. He has all the power, but he has no information about what is going on in the battlefield in Ukraine. The generals have the information of what's going on. The generals know what the Russian army can do or what it cannot do, and what the Ukrainians can do and cannot do. The generals know that, but the general cannot talk to him because he is almost like God. Okay? So the man has all the power and no information. The generals have all the information but no power. The result is disaster. And this is the same problem with every dictatorship. Every dictatorship. Information asymmetry. What has got to do with waqfs, you may say? It is very similar in the sense that the conditions by which a waqf is supposed to be administered are all stated in the waqf deed, which we saw in just next door, in the next room, the endowment deed. The conditions are stated there. By whom? By the founder of the waqf. When did the founder of this waqf die? back in the 13th century. Okay? So the conditions he wrote down, we are in now the 21st century, which, is it 7th centuries we are talking about? 21'den 7 centuries. 7 centuries ago, the conditions that he wrote 7 centuries ago govern the WAQF, this WAQF today. That's information asymmetry. He has the power. The power is written in the endowment deed, but the conditions have changed during those 700 years. The conditions have changed, and the people who are running the mütevelli, who is running this WAQF now, or the Vakıflar Genel Müdürlüğü, has all the information, but the Genel Müdürlük, but the General Directorate of Vakıfs cannot change the endowment deed. So there is a problem of, this is some sort of information asymmetry. The Vakıfs of stocks solves this problem as well. Why? Because the Vakıf of stocks holds the shares of companies. So the business of generating money is done actually by professional managers of companies that are operating now. These are professional people, and they take their decisions according to everyday changing circumstances, and they make money. The Vakıf, as they make money, the values of their shares increase, and the Vakıf holds those shares, so the Vakıf's wealth also increases. Therefore, the information asymmetry has disappeared. The money-making business is actually done by professional managers today according to today's conditions. The only conditions that are obeyed by the Vakıf management are the redistribution conditions. In other words, the condition that the founder of this Vakıf has said, the money should be spent, so much of the money should be spent on education, so much of it should be spent on the hammam, so much of it should be spent on this, on that. The redistribution of the money earned by the Vakıf is done according to the original conditions. But the actual business of generating cash, generating money, is done by professional managers according to the ever-changing circumstances. So this is another huge advantage of Vakıfs of stocks. Another advantage is crowdfunding. All of us here can make some small part of our savings, can give those small parts as gifts to the Vakıf. Now we cannot, none of us here, I presume, is rich enough to make such beautiful buildings and to establish such a big Vakıf. But we can, thousands of us, hundreds of thousands of us, can make small donations to an existing Vakıf. That is crowd finance. And that is a very, very modern concept in business, isn't it? So, Vakıfs of stocks makes it very feasible, very easy to actually apply crowd finance. In short, one more thing before I come to the conclusion. Just recently, actually about 10 days ago, I discovered a fatwa given by Yasser Auda, who is the greatest living authority on Maqasid al-Shariat, by the way. And he lives in the United States. He lives in England. And he gave a fatwa in England within the framework of the Maqasid Institute in London. Yasser Auda. And the fatwa is as following. It says, the London Maqasid Center the year 2022, but they have also evolved. Wakfs of stocks are the most modern and, in my opinion, the most advanced form of wakf. And they have impeccable Islamic legitimacy because they operate with equity financing, which means mudaraba, which was the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so they operate with impeccable Islamic legitimacy. If encouraged by the governments, they can help alleviate poverty in the Islamic world by financing human capital development, which, according to Professor Gary Becker, is the essence of economic development. If you want to prove, just think of countries like Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, Japan. None of these countries have important natural resources. What they have is excellent human capital, highly educated human capital. And wakfs of stocks can provide this not only by themselves, but also through thanks with our. This should not be underestimated. The conclusion is that there is a huge potential for the Islamic world to develop. There is even a possibility. I just gave a paper to Purdue University. They were having a conference over there. I even mentioned the possibility of wakfs of stocks focusing on directly mudaraba financing themselves. So in other words, functioning like venture capital. A wakf, imagine a wakf supported by the zakat of millions of Muslims, focusing on choosing the entrepreneur and providing him directly entrepreneurial finance. That is mudaraba, 100% mudaraba, and that is entrepreneurial finance. So that too is possible. We have a huge potential. The point is, do we have governments who can appreciate all this? I think that's where